Before I resumed, I decided to see where I'm in weight-wise. Right now, with all electronics, about everything I'm going to add, obviously other than the covering and paint, which I still need to put on, I'm at 22.95, so basically 23 ounces. And Pat Tritle had his at 23.7 finish, so that's impressive. So my goal is 27, but I think 30 ounces will be more realistic. Just put extra details and stuff. And it should fly really light. I mean, if you look at arbs in this size, they're twice as heavy. So, I'm satisfied. So let's keep going. So far, I've added the landing gear assembly stiffeners, that kind of half circle. I put a lot of epoxy in there because I know it adds a lot of weight, but if that landing gear goes, that plane's done. Because think about all the surgery I have to do. So let's keep going. Once the ESC and UBC were spliced and mounted, I started epoxying the firewall. Unfortunately, the top piece in the laser cut kit did not fit, so I had to make my own kind of balsa counterpart and just strengthen up by adding a little extra epoxy in the sides, nice and strong. As you can see, then it started snowing to the record 8 inches we got in like a few days. Snow began in 2012 here in Seattle. It just started, so I went outside and started doing some prop tests just for fun. I still need to get the GWS 10x6 3-blade prop, which I'm going to use on this 180. It's almost exactly scaled down from the real 3-blade prop on Jim Tweeto's Cessna 180. But these tests, I just threw some random props on just to make sure the firewall's going to rip out or anything, and the motor worked well. Next up, I added the HS55 elevator and rudder servos on the basewood rail supports. They're in there nice and snug. Then I put in the elevator push guide and measured and cut the push rod for the elevator. And you see in this video here. Here's the elevator servo internal linkage right here. It's all hooked up. And say so Sullivan number 507 push rod tube and wire. And I just put a support beam here, glued the actual push rod there, and then run it back. And the kit includes these little bracers, and I glued it into the end there. And you see how it's not flush with the outside? That's so when I cover it, it'll hide all that up. So just the wire sticking out of the covering. And here's the tail wheel in the brass tube. So this goes into the rudder right here, so it steers this. And here's how it works again. I move the arm back a little because when it moves this way, it kind of bends the wire, as you can see. But it's pretty good. And I'll work on the rudder now. They're pull cables, but I'm going to put little tiny push guides in anyway, just to guide the wires from the porter. The wires got all messed up. So I made little slots right there. The tail wheel is straightforward. I just bent it over the plans. Make sure you make that top bend after you put it through the brass tube in the fuselage. That's what sticks in the rudder steer. More random stuff. I made the instrument panel hood out of .010 thick styrene instead of file folder paper, so it'd cover better. So I won't have to paint it. And then I hid a lot of the 2 wire harnesses by taping them to the side of the fuselage, so they're out of the view of the window. So next, I tackled the wing struts, starting with the receiver tubes. I already did them on the wing, so I cut them out of the 1/16 inch outside diameter aluminum tube and tacked them down on the fuselage and lash them with fishing wire. You could also use Kevlar thread to keep them down nice and secure. I didn't do this on Plossport. If you saw the main flight, they came right off, so I didn't want to skip on that. So now they're nice and strong and should be going anywhere. Now I've got the strut receiver tubes in both the wings and the fuselage. I'm going to go ahead and make the actual struts themselves. I started making them with the balsa. It's 3/16 by 1/2 inch, but I don't like how much they bend. So I went and got some basswood, and 24 inches in length. That's good enough for 2 of the struts. And I believe they're only semi-functional, where they do provide strength, but they don't affect the dihedral like they did on my Plossporter. So I still have to fit them manually. So I'll make one lower retention clip, and then I'll manually fit the next one as it says on the plan. For each strut, I bent the both retention clips out of the music wire, drilled a hole after measuring the length, and then made a cut out a groove, glued it in, and it works pretty well. Like I said, I did manually fit them. Unfortunately, I did add a little dihedral, but I think it's okay. Here's the attached wing struts, left and right hand side. The wings are very stiff now, which is good, and makes a little more dihedral than I should put in, but it's even, and so that's all I care about. So it should fly stable, and still looks good. So now I just finished sanding and shaping all the parts, the wings, fuselage, and so on. The biggest thing I did was remove all the laser cut marks on the wings and stuff because they bleed through the covering. It just doesn't look that great. So it's a good time to start covering. I still got some stuff to do, like the tail on the fuselage, wiring all the lights. But I can start with the tail and stuff. Instead of using solar film, which I use on my Porter and 4-star and all kinds of other builds, I decided to go a different route with this new park light stuff. I heard a lot of good stuff about it. It's fairly new. It's from Ultracoat. They've been around for a while, but it differs from solar film because it doesn't shrivel up and shrink as much in the sunlight, and warm temperatures. That just wreaked havoc on my other planes. It was like every day when I come back from the flying field, I have to touch up on everything. And this stuff is more durable. I mean, it's not as light as like Coverlight or Microlight from the Coverlight brand, but that stuff I hate using. It sticks. So I decided to go this route. So I got True Red, as per the real plane. That's the best color that'll match. And so let's get started. I got plenty of footage of the covering process, but I'm running out of time here. I'll make a kind of tutorial video on that stuff later. And just to recap, I loved it. I mean, it shrinks so much better, and like I said, it's durable, and I'm definitely going to stick with this stuff. I glued in the servos, which put some servo tape on it, and then I used silicone, and they fit nicely, as you can see here. So here's what the 180 looks like, with the bottom of the wings covered, the wing struts covered, and the horizontal and elevator slotted in and covered. As you all saw, I mounted the servos for the ailerons, the flaps, and I did that after I covered the wings so I could cut the slots. And the wings are designed for 5-gram servos, and I got 9 just because I had some already left over and they're more powerful. So I had to cut a little more out from the slots that I already laser cut. And to make it look better, I put a little scrap also in and cover that so the actual holes are smaller. And then I also painted the landing light slots, and these retainers come with the Turnkey FA lighting kit. I'll just run them in and stick them in there. Put a little silicone or formula glue on there. It should stay nicely, and acetate cover over that too. And I also covered the ailerons and flaps, tail horns, and before I cover the top wing, I had to do all the lighting wiring and soldering, because on the left wing here, there's gonna be 2 landing lights, nav and a strobe, and nav and strobe on that wing. So all these lights are gonna go into 1 or 2 connectors on here, like probably a servo connector like these. They also run to the control board over here, which either velcros on this side or this side of the fuselage frame there. This is the beacon. I'm gonna somehow mount on top of the vertical stabilizer, like on the real Tweto plane. Now somehow to conceal it inside the structure. Probably have to extend it too, so that's a lot of soldering. And once I get that done, I can cover the top of the wings, start with the fuselage. Servo's mounted there, and this is probably the final place I'm gonna mount the battery for the CG, because I'm gonna get an aluminum 3-blade spinner, just because I actually need more nose weight anyway. Look nice with the 3-blade prop. So let's take a look at how I'm gonna do the flaps and ailerons. So here, looking down the right wing with the aileron servo arm and the flap one down there. This is the elevator servo right here, and the rudder servos behind that. I have 3 position flaps on here on my DX6i. I might switch it over to a Futaba 8-channel just for simplicity. But here's first of all, I had to wire harness the ailerons because I need an extra channel for the light controller. I was going to use a separate battery, but I decided it would be a lot easier just to leave the separate battery out and just plug it in the receiver. So obviously ailerons are working. You can't see the other one from here, but they go opposite directions. They're built into plans like that. And then I flip the flap switch down, so the flaps are in the neutral position with the arm down there. Flip the flap switch, it goes down a little. And I probably need more throw because I'm aiming at 20% for takeoff flaps and 40% for landing flaps. The real 180 and 185 have 4 positions. I think each one's about 10 degrees. Then for landing flaps, press the gear switch. Like I said, if I go with the 8-channel, I can have it on a 3-position switch. That'll make it easier. But it's back to takeoff and neutral. Zooming on the elevator. That's takeoff flap, slow down elevator, and a little more down elevator for landing flaps. And I'll obviously trim that when I actually fly it. That's the control surfaces. So I got rudders and elevators, and that's it for part 2. Next part, I'll start working on the cowling. I already got it fit, and I just gotta trim it and paint it, probably with enamel paint. And I do all the wiring for the lights. One of the biggest problems I'm having right now is the tail wheel, which goes into the rudder there. It's not a perfect 90-degree bend, so I need to figure that out. Probably have to stick the plane into a vise or something. And then just little stuff like sanding the place where the horizontal stabilizer goes in, because you can see it's kind of off, and the rudder's just taped in there. That's the easy fix. And stuff like wheel bushings and landing fairings, and so we're getting there. Lights at the end of the tunnel, definitely. Starting to look good. So see you in part 3.